All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are stepping straight over the threshold into absolutely the darkest chapter of this entire haunted narrative we've been tracking. We're dropping right into the freezing, suffocating atmosphere of that hidden secret room inside room 307. We're going to be analyzing a sequence of events that just completely rips the ground out from under our protagonists, Aryan, Rohit, and Saurabh. I mean, they've just uncovered this secret space, but as we're about to see, this room has totally been waiting for them.
I want you to really stop and think about this for a second. What would you do if a ghost literally showed you an empty photo frame and told you it was specifically waiting for you? It is a deeply, deeply terrifying scenario, isn't it? Because it takes what feels like a passive haunting and makes it completely and aggressively personal. This isn't just about exploring a scary place anymore. This is that exact gut-wrenching moment of dread that Aryan, Rohit, and Saurabh feel crashing down on them. The horror isn't just happening around them, it is explicitly targeting them.
Section 1. The Wall's Terrifying Secret.
So let's dive into this by looking at the chilling evidence found right on the walls of this secret room. Because in horror, the environment always tells a story, right? When the guys look around, they see dozens of photos of children hanging on the wall. And under each photo, there's a name, and under that name, a date. It basically serves as this morbid memorial. But the horrifying realization, the detail that just sends absolute shivers down their spines, is at the very end of the line. The last 3 frames are completely empty, no names, no dates, just blank spaces. It's a meticulously planned trap, intentionally left empty. It's kind of like a reservation for death, just waiting for 3 very specific guests to arrive. And man, if those empty frames weren't enough, the entity in the room goes ahead and confirms their absolute worst fears. A woman in a white sari, sitting right in the middle of the room, slowly stands up. Her hair is so long it drags all the way to the floor. And without even showing her face, she delivers this absolutely bone-chilling line, "These pictures are yours." Imagine the sheer paralysis of hearing that. Aryan, who was already trembling, had just asked why the frames were empty, and her response just sends this instant freezing shudder through all 3 of them. They aren't investigators anymore. They are the intended victims.
Section 2. The Bloody Truth of 1976.
Let's see how this builds, because the environment reacts violently to her words. Almost instantly, the temperature in the room plummets to freezing. The walls themselves actually begin to drip. But, you guessed it, it's not water. It's a thick, dark, red fluid. In his panic, stepping back from these bleeding walls, Saurabh stumbles upon the ultimate piece of evidence. His foot hits something on the floor. It's a dusty old video camera. And what's really fascinating here is how aggressively we are ripped out of this present-day panic and thrown all the way back to the exact year this horror originated. The moment they turn that camera on, it transports them, and us, decades back in time to 1976, revealing the hotel exactly as it used to be.
Let's break down the tragic sequence of events caught on this old tape. It actually starts out innocently enough. In the first few seconds, you hear children laughing. It's a genuinely happy scene. But minutes later, utter chaos erupts. A massive fire breaks out in the hotel. Smoke is completely filling the corridors. The children, just desperately seeking safety, end up trapped inside room 307. They're banging on the door, crying, literally begging for someone to open it. But no one from the outside helps them. And then, right at the very end of the recording, the true horror is revealed. The woman in the white sari appears in the frame, and she locks the door from the outside, entirely sealing their fate.
As she locks the door on those innocent kids, she whispers this unbelievably sinister motive. She says, "Now no one will ever leave me." This is a massive, game-changing turning point in our explainer today. Rohit realizes out loud, his voice completely trembling, that the deaths of these children, they weren't an accident. This wasn't just some tragic building fire. It was a deliberate, calculated mass murder committed by this woman. She locked them in for the sole purpose that they could never abandon her.
Section 3. The True Face of the Curse.
Hearing Rohit's realization, the woman in the white sari just begins to laugh loudly. And it's this awful laugh that echoes through the entire decaying hotel. Then, she slowly lifts her head, revealing her true form for the very first time. Notice this insane visual transformation here. On one side, we have the classic ghost in a white sari. Faceless, long hair dragging on the floor, slow movements. It almost evokes a weird sense of sorrow. But as she lifts her head, the burnt entity is fully revealed. Her face is completely charred. Where her eyes should be, they are literally just black, hollow sockets. And as she breathes, thick ash pours right out of her mouth. She is the literal physical manifestation of the fire she caused back in 1976. Through all that ash pouring from her mouth, she screams this final, chilling threat at the three men. Now you will stay here too. This isn't just some spooky, generic ghost line. No, this is the activation code of the curse. With these exact words, she is explicitly binding Aryan, Rohit, and Saurabh to the exact same fate as the children she murdered decades ago. The trap has officially been sprung.
Section 4. Time. 3 hours and 8 minutes.
The trap definitively snaps shut around our characters in this sequence of rapid, inescapable events that completely defy all logic. The crucial point here is how quickly their doom is sealed. Let's look at the steps of this curse taking hold. First, the room starts shaking violently as all the skeletons of the children stand up in unison, with a piercing blue light beaming straight from their hollow eye sockets. Second, and honestly this is the most terrifying part, the faces of Aryan, Rohit, and Saurabh actually begin to form inside those previously empty glass frames on the wall. They are literally being etched into the history of the haunted room right before their own eyes. They scream, and finally the door to the room forcefully slams shut and locks itself. They are totally trapped.
But wait, the horror doesn't even end inside the room. We get one final, shocking environmental shift. Out in the quiet, dusty corridor of the hotel, the mysterious clock, which has likely been broken or completely frozen for years, suddenly shifts. For the very first time, the hands move to show exactly 3:08.
Which brings us to the end of today's explainer. That clock changing to 3:08 for the first time. I mean, what does it signify? The story leaves us hanging right on a knife's edge. Is the old curse from 1976 finally breaking because the room has claimed its final victims? Or, by trapping Aryan, Rohit, and Saurabh, has an even more terrifying modern curse just begun to take root? It's an absolutely brilliant cliffhanger that perfectly sets up the anticipation for what comes next. Thank you so much for joining me to decode the terrifying architecture of Room 307. Stay curious, stay focused, and I'll see you in the next explainer.